They said they just wanted marriage equality. That's all. Well, on June 26, 2015, they got that. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of forcing same-sex marriage in all 50 states. So they got what they said they wanted. But does the buck stop there? Not by a long shot. Gay marriage is just a small stepping stone to a wider agenda. And that's what we'll talk about in this video. Stay tuned. Same-sex marriage is a topic I'd never covered on my channel before, but being that it's Pride Month, what better time to talk about it? This is an issue that for a while I considered myself to be on the liberal side. Not because I necessarily supported it, but because I wasn't opposed to it. So my indifference essentially made me liberal on this issue by default. After all, I'm not gay, nor do I plan to get married, so this is an issue that was far removed from my area of interest. I took the attitude, hey, let them do whatever, it doesn't affect me either way. However, just because something may not affect you personally, doesn't mean you're not allowed to have an opinion about it. And if anyone says otherwise, they are just using a silencing tactic. And just like other political issues, I've learned to be skeptical of the left. Because nothing is ever really the way leftists want you to believe it is. After all, the left is good about making their positions sound altruistic and moral. Issues like raising the minimum wage, their take on the redistribution of wealth, their pro-choice position, their stance on gun control, and so on. The left pretends to take the moral high ground on these issues and vilifies or shames anybody who disagrees. But if you think about these issues for more than just 5 seconds, you realize that there's another side to consider. Gay marriage is no different. But go ahead and try to disagree with them on this issue and get ready for the name calling to commence. You will for sure be called a homophobe, and your arguments will be automatically dismissed because, well, after all, you must be a bigot, right? Only a bigot would be against anything the left has to say, so keep your mouth shut. Well, I won't be doing that here. I'm going to talk about my position on this issue, what the gay movement has become, and what the wider goal of the gay agenda is. Left-wing movements have such amazing staying power, don't they? They stick around despite accomplishing what they said their goals were. We still have feminism despite the fact that there is no right that a man has that a woman doesn't. In fact, women are the privileged sex. But nevertheless, feminism is still around. Similarly, the gay movement said they just wanted marriage equality, which they have, yet they're still not done. Now let me just say that I fully support a legal recognition of same-sex couples, so long as it's distinct from heterosexual marriage. So I am for civil unions. Now I don't care about whatever fetishes or kinks you're into, so long as you do it in the privacy of your own home and it's between consenting adults, it's absolutely your business. However, when a movement begins a slippery slope of trying to force even more outlandish sexual deviancies down everyone's throat, destroys individual freedoms, forces acceptance rather than being content with tolerance and equality under the law, and puts their perversions on display in front of children, yeah, that's where I draw the line. So yes, this is quite a bit to unpack, so let's get into it. Many people believe that being gay is biological. You'll hear that they were born that way. However, I just have to ask, if being homosexual is biological, then why is there no biological reason to be homosexual? The whole point of sexual desire is that it leads to the propagation of the species. It's a biological imperative. Same-sex relationships cannot result in the propagation of new life. Being male or female comes with a hardwired attraction for the opposite sex for the purpose of procreation. And as far as we can tell, there is no gay gene. If there was such a gene, then wouldn't there also be one for all the different sexual orientations out there as well? Some people argue that there are other animals that exhibit homosexual behavior. Therefore, homosexuality is natural. But this is just a case of animals being in situations where it's difficult to fulfill their sexual desires, so they develop alternative ways to meet their sexual needs. Case in point, look no further than the pet dog. It's not uncommon to see them hump inanimate objects.
This one's got the duck doing all the work.
Or dogs may hump human legs, but this doesn't mean that the dogs that do these things are of a particular sexuality. Another great study to look at is Dr. Neil Whitehead's study on identical twins. This shows that homosexuality is rooted in psychology rather than biology. Identical twins have the same genes or DNA. They are nurtured in equal prenatal conditions. If homosexuality is caused by genetics or prenatal conditions, and one twin is gay, the co-twin should also be gay. Because they have identical DNA, it ought to be 100%, Dr. Whitehead notes. But the studies reveal something else. If an identical twin has same-sex attraction, the chances the co-twin has it are only about 11% for men and 14% for women. Because identical twins are always genetically identical, homosexuality cannot be genetically dictated. No one is born gay, he notes. The predominant things that create homosexuality in one identical twin and not in the other have to be post-birth factors. Dr. Whitehead believes same-sex attraction is caused by non-shared factors, things happening to one twin but not the other, or a personal response to an event by one of the twins and not the other. For example, one twin might have exposure to adult material or sexual abuse, but not the other. One twin may interpret and respond to their family or classroom environment differently than the other. One thing I think a lot of people don't seem to get is that you could be opposed to gay marriage, but not be opposed to gay people. Like I said before, what you do behind closed doors is your business. And I also said that I was for the legal recognition of same-sex couples in the form of civil unions. But when you begin to redefine marriage, you start opening Pandora's box. One thing will lead to another. The whole point of marriage is rooted in reproduction, something that only heterosexual couples could be able to do. This is the main reason why civil unions and marriage should be distinct concepts. But part of the gay agenda is to redefine marriage as something rooted in a narcissistic interpretation of love and not reproduction. And even though homosexuals are a small minority, they are looking to change the language of marriage and what the family unit is. This goes to show you that the gay agenda is rooted in ideology, not equality. Gay marriage is about socially engineering society by destroying and subverting the family. This is a war on the nuclear family. Gay marriage is about redefining the family so drastically, and they want to make marriage so open to interpretation that it's pretty much meaningless. Their agenda is rooted in the eradication of the family, religion, and the nation state. And the Communist Manifesto clearly states that all three of these things must go before a socialist utopia can be fully realized. And this socialist utopia is the ultimate end goal of any radical left-wing movement. There is a difference between tolerance and forcing acceptance. If I were to say something like, hey, I respect your right to do something, and I won't try to stop you from doing it, but I personally don't agree with this particular lifestyle, so don't expect me to applaud you or partake in any way in your lifestyle. That would be my right, and you should likewise respect that too. That would be tolerance. But guess what? That isn't good enough for the radical left. The left has a state-sanctioned license to severely punish anyone who doesn't agree with their war against the family. Some even think that churches should lose their tax-exempt status if they don't conduct gay weddings. And plenty of companies have been punished for not supporting the gay agenda. To name a couple, Asher's Bakery in Northern Ireland was fined £500 for not making a gay wedding cake, and a family-run cake shop in Oregon was put out of business for also choosing not to make a gay wedding cake. But isn't it funny how other kinds of discrimination is perfectly acceptable? If you say bars and clubs are sexist for having a ladies' night, you're told, well, it's their business, they can do whatever they want. They have every right to refuse service or discriminate if they wish. Don't like it? Don't go there. And fair enough, I can accept that. However, this same reasoning doesn't apply to businesses that refuse service to gay couples. Why not though? Fundamentally, it's the same thing. If a business has the right to have a night where women get free stuff for simply being women, but men never get anything for free, why then can't a business refuse to bake a gay wedding cake? Homosexuals can also just take their business elsewhere. This is what I mean by forced acceptance. With the power of the state at their side, these leftists have the power to subordinate the privacy and freedom of the individual to the collective. The gay agenda is about redefining sexual normality and repressing anyone who doesn't conform to this standard. But it has to be done right. The thing about radical movements is that they can't try to enforce their ultimate goal all at once because there would be immediate backlash. That's why it must be done gradually, brick by brick. They started with something that seemed relatively innocuous, homosexual relationships. This is because this is the most socially acceptable sexual fetish. It's not as vile or offensive as something like pedophilia or necrophilia. However, as more and more sexual orientations come onto the scene and more colors get added to that flag, the gay agenda expands further and further. It appears that more of these fetishes and sexual deviancies are getting pushed more into the mainstream. We first hear about gays, lesbians, and bisexuals. Next thing you know, we have transsexuals and drag shows. And this gives us a slippery slope of all kinds of sexual perversions. It's already gotten out of hand. Polygamy, for example, doesn't seem to be that big of a deal nowadays. Some sexual orientations I haven't even heard of before.
Before I knew what pansexual was, I thought it was people who have sex with pans.
And what's worse is that it looks like pedophilia is next up on the list. I mean, look at what's happening with children today. They are getting socially engineered into this LGBT lifestyle. Just look at the cartoon Arthur on PBS. There's a character named Mr. Ratburn who's a 3rd grade elementary school teacher, and there was an episode where he was getting married, but it's a gay wedding. He's marrying not another rat, he's marrying an aardvark.
A damn rat and an aardvark? Yeah. Those two don't go together if you ask me.
So not only are they promoting homosexuality, but throw in interspecies relationships in there too. Why not?
It's horrible that you're taking a damn aardvark and a rat. Totally two different species. At least you could have took a damn rat and a rat. What I know, man? What I know?
Then we have Drag Boy. This kid was socially engineered by his parents.
I am Desmond. I'm 11 years old, and I like pizza, trains, and drinking root beer since it's caffeine-free. I also do drag, and I love to put on makeup, dresses, and wigs, and of course, jewelry is necessary. My full drag name is Desmond is Amazing. I feel very happy to have a mom that accepts me.
It really touches me deeply that there are other children out there that he's reaching and they're listening to him and he's influencing them to be themselves.
I'm very proud of him. I'm proud that he's found his path so early.
My greatest joy in this is just seeing Desmond happy.
I love doing drag because it makes me feel amazing and self-expressive. It just feels amazing to know that people love what I do. My one big message would be 3 words: be yourself always.
Please welcome Desmond Napoles, aka Desmond is Amazing.
And of course, he comes onto the show and is applauded. I removed the audio on this portion of the clip because they were playing a Cher song. Just imagine if a normal boy, that's right, I said it, a normal boy, did that. That would be seen as weird, like, what would he do that for? But because Drag Boy does it, let's just clap louder.
For you three, when you see Desmond, what comes to mind? What do you think about?
Inspirational.
Yeah.
Brave, courageous.
They're always called brave. Oh wow, you're so brave. How is it brave to do something you're applauded for? The truly brave people are the ones speaking out against this. They are the ones who get physically attacked by the leftist mob and have their property destroyed.
Get off me!
Take the L. Face off. Face off. Face off. Y'all better watch out.
This goes beyond just tolerance. This is perversity disguised as diversity. If you're not one of the people who applauds this, you're seen as a bigot. You know, when I was a kid, adults would take us to the zoo. Nowadays, they have what they call family-friendly drag shows. Yeah, somehow this is seen as family-friendly. This is the modern-day view of a field trip. The radical left thinks that this is perfectly acceptable and that anyone who disapproves of this is intolerant. Meanwhile, my issue has nothing to do with the drag queens per se, it's exposing young children to sexuality that I have a problem with. How is this seen as appropriate? I mean, if the parents took their children to a strip club, I would have the exact same problem.
This is the Drag the Kids to Pride event at Mr. Mister's in Dallas's Oaklawn neighborhood. Organizers promoted it as a family-friendly drag show where kids danced with the performers. What came with it were protests outside.
You people are the symptom of a dying society, and you know it.
You're scaring children! Shut up! I live in this community. I have for several years.
Daisy says she first saw a poster for this event near where she lives.
I don't believe that I should be seeing signs advertising for children to be dancing on stage with men in thongs and in inappropriate clothing and makeup.
Yes, that's a perfectly rational response to what's happening. Yet when you speak out against this kind of debauchery, you get labeled as intolerant. Well, this goes way beyond tolerance and equality. This is sexual deviancy being pushed on children. I can't get behind this LGBT movement. This is the LGBT movement that I can get behind. And until next time,